Okay, another one here. I want to talk about the Pendulum, the book, the fictional book, the Pendulum. There's no such thing as, well, I think there might be. Um, there's a few books out there called the Pendulum, but nothing what the Pendulum actually is. Pendulum, just kind of fictional book I created, kind of like a Think and Grow Rich, an old classic, and only one that nobody really knows about. But it's loaded with philosophy, basically. It's not really a pep talk motivational book, but it's a philosophy on life that's not really applied to bipolar or mental illness, but it's a philosophy on life for everybody. So it presents a good message for everyone, but also there's a whole theory there that really and a philosophy regarding bipolar and mental illness management that plays right into it. And a couple of things that does is, it talks about how the pendulum basically represents, there's three sides to it. There's the good side of life, there's the bad side of life, and in the middle there is our comfort zones. Okay, and part of dealing with mental illness and even dealing with our lives and finding balance in our lives is understanding that the pendulum swings both ways. We're going to have good points in our life and bad points in our life. It's inevitable, and awareness is critical in dealing with bipolar disorder or mental illness or just your life, that you're going to have good and bad, and self-awareness is the first thing you need to do to address things and accept that. Okay, most people lie in the comfort zones in the middle, okay, and they're afraid to push the boundaries. They're afraid to push their pendulum to the right, to the good things in life, and really push themselves out of their comfort zone for fear that it's going to swing back to the other side and cause more negativity in their lives and cause pain. So that's where most people fall in that comfort zone, and they're scared to death, and so they stay in this little comfort zone in their life. They don't push it, and so they need to be able to take risks. But the thing is, if people are willing to push their pendulum by jumping out of their comfort zone, it is going to swing back, and they will have challenges in their lives that it may cause. But as time goes on, if they'll make correct decisions and learn their lessons when it's on the bad side, they'll learn their lessons and they'll grow tough. And so eventually the bad, when it swings to the bad, it doesn't seem so bad, but the good continues to swing, and it's even better, and we get, it swings higher, and so the positive things in our life increase, and it doesn't eliminate the bad, but if we learn our lessons and becomes tough, it's not so bad, and so there's an offset of balance on it. And so that's kind of the pendulum theory that I talk about in the book. The book takes place. The other thing with the pendulum theory is that for bipolar people with bipolar disorder and mental illness and drug, and drug abuse and alcoholism, their pendulums, our pendulums swing like this. They're wide. They swing all over the place with no control, back and forth, and it's just it's confusing, and we feel like there's no control over it, but we do have control in that we control our own pendulums. Okay. And the way we do that is, one, everybody controls it by pushing themselves out of their comfort zone, making decisions in their lives. We all have a pendulum in our life. We all control it. With bipolar people, we think it's out of control, but it's not. We do still control it. And we do that by taking our medication, by self-awareness that we do control things, by, not self-medicating, positive mental attitude, all these things we can control it, But there's still going to be good and bad. I'm well aware that that I'm going to struggle with this for the rest of my life. But I'm also aware that when I do have episodes, oftentimes it's because I haven't controlled it. I've let it get out of control. I haven't communicated with my doctor about my medication, and I should be able to control it. And that's the message there, that even though, there is a control there, we do control our own pendulums. Now, there's a silver lining to the message, too, and that's this. There's really a blessing that comes from people with bipolar disorder and mental illness, a silver lining, and not always, but there is, because a lot of times, and you know this, and I know this, that the bliss side of it is experiences that you have from getting yourself in these crazy situations because of your, people with bipolar, at least myself, experience things that nobody in their right mind would imagine. Who has a story like I do about going to New York City? I would have never had that if I wasn't out of my mind. But it's a story to tell. And all these stories that they're all true, that make up this film. I have those experiences because I'm bipolar. And so it's given me a rich life, and that doesn't even scratch the surface on my stories that I could tell. And so I have that. It's a gift. And it's allowed me to create a screenplay based upon my life. So I have that creativity. It's also allowed me to grow tough. You know, I have a huge comfort zone. I can deal with anything because I've dealt with hell for my whole life. I've been through it all. And, you know, I have a huge comfort zone. So my philosophy with the pendulum that I came up with is if we can learn to deal with these things, we have something really to offer to the world. You know, because we have rich experiences, we're strong, and we have wisdom that we can, you know, that we can share. And the other thing is that there's a fine line between insanity and genius, you know. And the film kind of talks about this a little bit. And I don't know if I'm going to cut this out, but you know, some of the most successful people, you know, in the world, Terry Fisher. There's a lot of people in Hollywood that deal with mental illness. Winston Churchill, Abraham Lincoln, all these people dealt with mental illness, yet they pushed and they were successful. And one of those reasons that I believe is because their comfort zone is so big that they're willing to push their pendulum outside that comfort zone that most people don't even dare. You know, don't even think about pushing it that far. But because they do that, and with the creativity, that's the genius, and that's where the boundaries are pushed, that creates innovation oftentimes with people like this. And so there's a fine line, you know, between that. You know, it's those zones out there where, you know, really genius occurs. And so there is a silver lining that I see in all this, and that's what the message of the pendulum is. And so I'm actually working on a book, kind of self-help book, with that concept in mind, to help you with bipolar disorder, but generally. And so that I want to integrate into this whole project, you know, as a whole other mechanism for cells, and create maybe a whole campaign for bipolar awareness, mental illness awareness based upon that concept. So that's kind of where the pendulum, the book comes from. It's kind of a creation of my imagination. I've taken some of the ideas from other places that I've seen it, and I've just kind of formed my own theory based upon different things. So that kind of explains where that is, and I don't know exactly the extent that I'm going to integrate it into the screenplay. I'm probably going to slim it down a little bit just for the story's sake, but that's an explanation of the pendulum.